Hi everyone. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Elena Faverio and I am an actor when the world isn't in the middle of a global pandemic. So today I want to do a little Q&A about acting and theater. So my personal experience with it, but also more general things. Also, in honor of doing this Q&A, I've dressed like my primary headshot. So hold on, I'll get closer. Should I try to like do the face? So I guess before we get started, just a little bit about me. I grew up on Long Island and I started off my theater interest by doing primarily musical theater when I was younger. I got my BA in theater arts from Williams College, and during that time I acted, directed, wrote a musical, did some lighting design, did some set design, I worked as a stage manager. For the past 3 years, I've been getting my master's in acting from the Guildhall School of Music and Drama in London. And now I am working as a professional actor, although at the moment, due to coronavirus, I am unemployed. The last time I performed on stage was March 13th. So today I figured would be a really lovely time to just chat a bit about the theater scene and sort of get back in touch with my love for it. I've put all of the questions into this box, which one of my best friends gave me for my birthday when I was about 10. First question, is drama school worth it? So I did go to drama school. I went to Guildhall School of Music and Drama in London, and I got my master's in acting after 3 years there. Definitely try to go to school somewhere you want to work. I think drama school is a great time to hone your craft, and it's also a time where you start to make professional connections. For me, going to school in London, while I did learn a lot, was sort of a missed opportunity in terms of growing my professional connections because a lot of them weren't transferable to the American theater scene, which is tough. For me, I wouldn't trade the experience, mostly because my cohort was brilliant, and I think Guildhall really allowed me a sounding board for what was important to me. I was able to sort of look at the ethos of the school, what they were teaching, the kinds of art they were making, and figure out for myself what I believed, what I wanted to do as an artist, and what kind of art I wanted to be making. So I'd say it was worth it. Short answer, was worth it. Next. How do you say no to something in a room that crosses a personal boundary? I recently went to a workshop that my friend Izzy gave where we talked about how to establish boundaries just in your personal life. And she was saying how there are boundaries that are proactive and reactive. I think as much as you can as an actor, being proactive about your own boundaries is so useful to sort of gauge things in advance if you know that there's something in the script that might be difficult for you, or if you know the director wants you to improv and you're worried that something might come up, if there's violence, if there's intimacy, if there's anything that's potentially triggering to you in any way, flag it up beforehand if you can. It's very difficult, but it also could be very healthy and helpful and could actually bring you closer in the room to be able to establish trust ahead of time. I'm also aware that that's not always possible, and sometimes boundaries do get crossed in rehearsal rooms, usually inadvertently, but they do get crossed. And I think the most important thing is to communicate it right after it has happened so that it doesn't happen again and people are aware moving forward. And to do it in a way that is practical and productive. So to be really clear, this happened to me once. I had someone cross a boundary physically with me during a performance, and it had never happened before. And all I did was, after that performance, I spoke to the person afterwards and I say, hey, tonight this happened differently than it has ever happened before. I'm actually not comfortable if you touch me in that way. From now on, could we do it like this? And he was super open, super receptive, and it solved it. And afterwards, I felt so much more comfortable doing the physical bits with him. So be brave, establish your boundaries, and let people know if they've crossed them. Do you ever forget you're acting on stage and just do what you would in real life? This is a great question. So, no, I don't. I've definitely met people in my career as an actor who are like, yeah, sometimes I just forget that I'm on stage, and then I can't remember what I've done, or I just do something. I don't trust that. I know that everyone has their own experience and their own method. I don't trust it, probably because that's not my experience. In moments when I feel really connected as an actor, I'm actually much more aware of everything that is happening, and I just feel like super amazing and super in control, like I could do anything. But I'm always aware that I'm acting. I've never once forgotten that I'm on a stage. How did you decide you wanted to do acting? Oh, frick. Well, if we're talking about initially, when I was probably 4 years old, I went to see my older sister in a production of The Wizard of Oz at our local Jewish community center. And I was so excited the entire time. I wouldn't sit down. And at the end, I told my parents that I wanted to do it. I was like, I want to do that. How do you decide about auditioning for a certain part? What do you consider? This is a great question. I think this, for me, I don't want to get super philosophical, but this question for me is what personally makes me think of people either as actors or artists. And the answer is agency and how you decide to use yourself as an artistic tool. That's kind of a blunt way to say it, to sort of like view an artist as a tool for art. But I think this is an amazing question. Is it appropriate for me to be auditioning for this role? That is the first question I ask myself. If there is any reason why I should not be auditioning for that role, I will not audition for it. So for me, that's any sort of like cultural, ethnic, racial, religious lines that I am not willing to cross as a person or an artist. I will not audition for that role. The next thing I'd say that I usually look at is what is the content of the role? So is there anything in it that for me is going to be too difficult to play? If a play is too violent, sometimes I won't feel comfortable auditioning for it, especially if the violence in the play I feel is sensationalistic or sort of for shock value rather than for a dramatic purpose. If I feel that's what's going on, then I'm usually not interested. That's personal taste. Also, if there's something in the content that for me would be personally too difficult to work on in terms of the emotional landscape I'm living in at the moment. So for me, for example, sometimes roles that deal with sexual violence, I won't feel comfortable playing. Also, I guess I should mention, sometimes, especially as women, I'd say, there is a question of, will I accept this role if it's nudity required? I had a friend recently who was up for a role, and looking through the contract, you had to agree to the nudity in advance of even auditioning for the role. So I think it's really important to know for yourself what your boundaries are in regards to that, because sometimes it is negotiable and sometimes it's not for whatever reason. So know yourself, and I think don't allow yourself to be swayed just by the promise of a certain role. Unless you think it's really worth it, then go for it. If you're working on highly emotional material, how do you leave it at the door or the theater or on the set? My first piece of advice with deeply emotional material as an actor is don't ever bite off more than you can chew. Protect yourself. If you're being put up for something and you know that there's material in it that you cannot handle, personally, protect yourself. Don't take the audition. Don't take the part. There's nothing wrong with an actor saying no. I think as actors, we're often taught to just say yes, accept everything that comes your way because you don't know when you'll be cast again. But if you are given material and you are just like, I cannot work on this, do not feel obligated. There will be more opportunities to act. That said, if you do feel able to work on certain emotional material and it gets deeply personal for you as an actor, my recommendation would be to find some sort of structured way to come down from it and know what works for you. So if at the end of a play and you feel drained and then you have to go out and say, thank you for coming, etc., get yourself home, find little ways to make sure that you are going to be okay, at least until you get into a space where you can take care of yourself. So For some people, that might be checking in with another cast member or the director or a partner, family member, friend. Have someone that you message right after or speak to just to say, I'm here with you. Do you need anything? How are you feeling? Are you okay? Sometimes it's really nice to have a moment alone. So go to the bathroom, go to your dressing room, get back in touch with your breath, get back in contact with your body. Remind yourself that the play is over. You are you. It's not real. It's done. How do you develop a character? What kind of research do you do to prepare for an established role? For me, I find that image work is really nice. So I'll usually get on Pinterest, or if I'm feeling super crafty, I'll start cutting things out of magazines and just find pictures that for some reason speak to the emotional life of whatever character I'm working on. And they're usually not super logical. For example, when I was working on Salieri, I found this amazing picture of this monkey, this like baby monkey with huge ears and huge eyes. And I just thought to myself, oh my God, this is exactly right for his heart. I don't know. Somehow it gave me something. What's the difference between playing characters of your age and gender and not? This is a great question. I love this question. Right, so for me, playing characters of different genders, there is no difference. I do not approach them any differently than I would a character of my own gender. I know not every actor feels this way, and a lot of directors that I have had will be like, you're playing a man, but don't play him as a man. For me, that's not necessarily a meaningful statement, so I just sort of translate it into my own language and try to digest it in a way that makes sense for me as an actor. Oftentimes, I think the question of gender in character is an external perspective that comes from expectations of how people believe that certain genders should behave, act, or speak. And I don't necessarily subscribe to those expectations. The only thing that I will say about this is that I would play characters that are cisgendered women, and I would play characters that are cisgendered men. I would not feel comfortable playing a trans character, and for me, that's another boundary that I have as an actor. I don't think it's appropriate for someone who identifies as cisgendered to take a role away from a trans actor. So that's a boundary for me. What are some things, whether as an actor or a fan of theater, that you're tired of seeing, i.e. tropes, conventions, etc.? Right. Now, I'm sure that there are. My immediate answer to this is all male casts. All cisgendered male casts. Especially if it's an all-white cisgendered male cast. I am not interested. I do not care if it's 2 people. I do not care if it's 15 people. I'm tired of it. If the cast is not inclusionary, and let me preface that by saying that's literally like the first hurdle to inclusion, including one person who's not a white cisgendered male. If the cast is not inclusionary, I'm not interested. And honestly, that rabbit hole does follow the whole way down. I think that one of theater's biggest hurdles to jump is inclusion, still. I also will say this, my favorite musical is 1776. I'm not necessarily proud of that fact because I am aware that I've just gone off on my white cisgendered male rant, and that cast is like entirely white cisgendered men, but I'm gonna say this. I saw recently that they're about to do a production that is super inclusionary. The cast is full of women, full of people of color, and it gave me so much hope on this front. If you can take 1776 and make it inclusionary, there are no more excuses. If you want to do classic shows, if you want to do extant material, you can and have, in my opinion, the responsibility to make it as diverse and inclusionary as the world we are living in, especially the community that you personally are working in as an artist or an institution. You can do it. If John Adams can do it, you can do it. If Ben Franklin can do it, you can do it. Just do it. You can do it.